and they go in only for a breast lift. And then they end up being told, well, what about the extra, fold that you have on your side? Did I say I have a problem with it? I guess at the end of the day, colonization is colonization.
It
And
is.
and those roots run deep. Hey, you guys, thank you for joining us again. We are going to resume from the last episode where things took an interesting turn. Hope you enjoy it. Even with some acne, I can still bring it, okay? It's about having that confidence, and to have that confidence, you really have to see that beauty in yourself. If you don't truly see it, no, you're not even going to convince yourself that you truly feel that way. And I'll tell you guys a personal story about that. So I've gone to the dermatologist for a variety of skin issues, right? Try to keep the skin healthy. Like, I'm all about the nutrition for the skin. I'm not about like just doing, I'm not a, because if I was, I would be plugging these lines I have here. But I remember that I went in because with my hirsutism, I don't have severe hirsutism. It's mild, but it's ingrown, and so it leaves a scar wherever it is, right? And so I don't have a lot over my lifetime, and my hair just in general is a thinner grain of hair, but it's ingrown, and so it leaves a mark regardless, right? And so I go for that treatment, and without failure, not calling on my dermatologist because I love my dermatologist, but I'm just saying, I just want to point out this one particular point. Without failure, I never put on my intake information that I have issues with my moles because I don't.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Now, it may just
Mm-hmm.
be that this is a prevalent complaint and this is why they approach it this way. But on multiple occasions,
Oh,
with people of color, because I go to people of color, period. Okay. Because I was scarred when I first started treatment. I was scarred because I went
mm,
to, what was that area? Uptown New York, or Upper East Side New York initially.
mm-hmm.
Oh,
Mm-hmm.
and did not realize that are nuances to the color of our skin that people have to be
Mm,
trained in. And I learned that the hard way. So I got scarred, and burned, unfortunately. Even as medical, I was in med school at that time. So you would think I knew better, but I didn't. I really didn't. So nonetheless, I now seek out people who are at least trained in caring for colored skin. And so I'm always stunned that I'm always told, so you want to take care of the moles? And I'm like, I'm sorry, dude, who brought up the moles? Like, I didn't bring up the moles. So I'm always stunned that people are bringing up issues with my skin that I didn't bring up. I happen to
mm-hmm.
love my moles, just like I love freckles. I happen to love my moles. And the reason why I love my moles in particular is because when I look at my family, it's a form of identity for me. The
I
women in our
know.
family, as you know, Tristan, because the whole Caribbean, we all like the same genetic background from West Africa, basically. We all have this distribution of our moles in this particular area, especially in my family. And so for me, it's a source of identity. So when I look at my aunts and when I looked at my grandmother, my great grandmother that I grew up with, I'm like, oh, I belong. Oh, I'm really from this family because we all got it in the same spot, right? And so I love it. It's a form of pride for me, right?
Mhm.
And so to hear somebody say, so in addition to what you came in for, you want to take care of the moles. I was like, I never said that the moles were an issue.
Mhm.
Never. So
Mhm.
it's also, even when you go to clinicians, and this is for my clinicians out there, if somebody didn't say something was a problem, even if it is not the typical, even if the standard of beauty or the standard of complaints in the office, like most people come in with this particular complaint, we shouldn't assume that the person that's in front of us has that complaint. I see Amanda shake her head, right? Because
Mhm.
you may put your foot in your mouth, because I didn't say anything to my doctors, and it's more than one sisters that said this. I didn't say
Mhm.
anything to them, but I was a little hurt. Why it don't look good? Like, if they actually maybe for a second there, she got a hold of herself. Was like, girl, I'm popping with my mole. But it's interesting how you can then form, because especially as clinicians, you view clinicians as having the eyes of what normal is, right? And so
Mm-hmm.
if you have clinicians that are saying that is not normal and should be fixed, or suggesting that it should be fixed, if I wasn't raised by the women in my family that raised me with the confidence that they raised me, I would have been a little hurt. It would have
Mm-hmm.
depleted my self-esteem, even though
Mm-hmm.
I didn't walk in the office with that complaint to begin with.
Mm-hmm.
So I think also, and I think this is why people, and we're going to talk about this topic at a later point coming up as part of my second half of the topics of the year. So I'm going to give y'all a little hint. I think it's why also when people go into plastic surgeons, I'm calling out my colleagues, and they go in only for a breast lift. And then they end up being told, well, what about the extra, fold that you have on your side? Did I say I have a problem with it? My husband may actually like it. See, I'm speaking into existence. My husband may actually like it, right? What if he likes my little extra fold on the side? What if I love my extra fold on the side? Or maybe I'm working on it with another means. But now you have pointed it out, and I consider you to be the eye of beauty and standard. Now I have a problem with something I didn't have a problem with walking in the office. And I think this is also why people walk into those offices and they come out with a whole body makeover that they didn't initially even think was a problem. What do y'all think about that from a clinician's point of view?
You're right. There's a lot of assumptions that we make, and as you're saying that, I'm literally thinking, how have I done that in my like area of the world and or area of treatment and clinical practice. And the patient would come in with this one particular complaint, and I start going on the line about all the other things that could be a potential issue. But most of the reason for that is because it affects their initial complaint.
Right. So it's related. So it's relevant.
It's relevant. So I'm now trying to make sure that I'm not giving myself any of that jumping anywhere. Like my brain is starting to go. And so as you say that, I need to keep that in the forefront of my mind to make sure that I am focusing on their complaint. And like this is the issue that they need addressed. And if it's a related thing, yes, but don't go finding things where they aren't. So mental note.
Yes. And it's so, what were you going to say, Amanda?
No, I was gonna say there's definitely those biases that we go in every time we go see a patient. And we're like, I know our school is really trying their best to teach us not to do that. Where when you see one diagnosis for one patient, you try not to carry that to your next patient because it's like saliently in your brain. So you're like, oh, I saw this, so it has to be this if they
Right.
present the same way, but it's not the same thing.
No.
Yeah.
Yeah, and I think also that I think part of why we're like that, because now I'm checking myself too, you guys. I'm like, am I guilty of what I'm saying? Is because we're so focused on fixing. We're so conditioned and focused on fixing things that we have to kind of change our perspective into focusing on what the patient's perspective of the problem is. And that's kind of the basis of what we're teaching. To your point, Amanda, what we're trending and teaching. I spent some time with a group of students recently teaching on trauma-informed care. And the whole perspective of that is really changing from diagnosing, which is what we're focused on, and how a lot of us were traditionally trained is to focus and figure out the diagnosis. What's the differential? What's in your differential? What did you forget? Did you consider every type of differential? We're so conditioned to do that. And we miss the problem. Like I can come up with 1,000 differentials and diagnoses for 1,000 different things I see on someone, but I've added no value to their life because I fixed what makes me feel good as a clinician because I identified something and came up with a fix for it, but did not value the life of the person that stood in front of me. So they walk out feeling like now I'm on medications I didn't want to be on. Now I have side effects I didn't come in the office asking for. I just came in to fix my trigger finger. And now I have all these other things that are not necessarily relevant. To your point, it's one thing if it's relevant and relatable, but if it's not, then we've just compromised the quality of the life of that person because now they're living with conditions they didn't know they had. Unless they're life threatening, then certainly bring it up to the patient. If you have, high cholesterol, diabetes, and certainly things like that, that's important. But if it's not life threatening, they don't see as a problem, why are we fixing it? Why are we offering to fix it? Because now we've changed how they view themselves. They may have walked into the office thinking that they were healthy, and now I'm thinking, I'm not healthy. Mm-hmm. Ooh, this is deep, y'all. Y'all got me thinking. Y'all got me thinking. How did this conversation go in this direction? Okay. I think this is valuable also because we do what the public does, just not as abrasive. As a community, like the public is very abrasive. They call it ugly. We call it a problem. We call it a diagnosis. What's the difference? Not that much of a difference. One just has a little bit more of a stigma with it, but essentially we're saying that there's a problem. We're all saying that there's a problem, whether you call it an unwanted diagnosis or whether you call it somebody saying that you're ugly. It's an unwanted problem that you didn't know you had to begin with. So, oh my gosh. So you guys, I have a question for y'all. Are there ethnic differences in how we view beauty? Do different ethnic groups view beauty differently?
Without a doubt. Yes.
Yeah.
In what way? Expound on this a little bit. Help me understand.
I know for the Asian community, definitely the lighter skin tone is one of the biggest things that we hold to as a standard of beauty. They believe it's because if you are lighter skin, you are not of the working class, you have more money, that you aren't in the sun all day, like in the rice field, like that's why you would have the darker skin tone.
Mm-hmm. I didn't know that.
Yeah, so a lot of times if you look at like Korea or Japan, they have more lighter skin because the jobs that they are doing are not necessarily out farming, and they are considered more beautiful. While like in like countries like Vietnam or China, because they're working in the fields, they have a darker skin tone because of the tan, and they're beautiful because they're of lower standard or lower class. So it's interesting how something financial and job related is related to also beauty.
So that's an interesting point. And it's interesting that you brought that up because one of the things that surprised me personally is finding out also in the Indian communities and especially in the Caribbean communities, because I feel like I thought in the Caribbean we had that like we got it, personality about and also in the African communities, the trends of this bleaching that had been going on in the last several years. Like that really stunned me because I look at these communities as having such a strong opinion about beauty. And so I'm stunned that we bleach as much as we do. And even though we do have songs, like the brown skin and all them reggae songs that really highlight the lighter brown skin. But I always thought that we grew up, or at least, perhaps it was just my household, grew up with a very strong sense of self. So I was especially shocked with African countries having this trend also, because I always view African women as like, darling, like I wake up every day, and I see the queen that I am. Like I look at my African sisters like, I want to be like you when it comes to that attitude. So I'm really stunned at that.
No, it's unfortunately it's it's still a very Eurocentric view on standard of beauty throughout. So what your nose looks like and what your skin tone is, what your hair looks like. It's still that way. But I believe, like, I want to think that there are pockets um, of the natural variety that still gets acknowledged and seen as being desirable. But maybe that's just my hope. I'm not sure.
I guess at the end of the day, colonization is colonization.
It
and
is.
and those roots run deep. I'm just really still stunned that even in societies where we are the majority, that we still have that very colonized mindset. So
They did
perhaps
a good job,
that's my own
unfortunately.
say that.
They did a very good job, unfortunately.
Yeah, if nothing else, even if you gain the ownership of your land or you maintain the ownership of your land, that mindset transcends generations
Yep.
with such power. It's mind-blowing to me. It really,
Mhm.
really is. But and I didn't, and perhaps I need to understand more about the Indian perspective of it. I was actually surprised that the Indians were also so into bleaching, which I didn't understand until I started to see a lot of topics and articles on it, and comments on social media as well about this trend with the bleaching in the Indian communities. So it's mind blowing to me. I will say I'm really surprised at how impactful that mindset is in certain community that I viewed to be communities of such high self-worth. Yeah.
Also, the reason that Asian communities like lighter skin, or back then, I don't know if it's, I don't feel like it's as strong of a perspective now, but back then, also because they would compare light skin to like porcelain. Like, oh, your skin is like as white and like smooth and clear as like porcelain, and like things that they would hold materialistic wise, like to such a high value. So if you're being compared to something like that,
That has high
that's what they
value.
consider beautiful. Yeah.
Oh, that's deep. Oh, we may have to
Yeah.
touch on this another time too, because we are pulling up some layers that we really could dig into. Like my mind is blown on that. I did not know that. And it's just interesting how so many communities are impacted by these standards, right? So that being said, I think the take home message would be like, what would you guys say is the take home message for someone who is struggling with their self-esteem, their self-confidence, their body image? So for me, my take-home message would be, one, don't assume that you understand someone's struggle, or you understand the reason why they have the condition that they have, whether it's a facial feature or disfigurement. Like, there may be depths to what that person is experiencing, and we ought to approach each other with more compassion. My second take home would be, you really can't rely on anybody else, not your family, not your parents, because parents can say that you're ugly too. There are parents who are abusive, okay? So you can't rely on your partner, your parents, your siblings, no one, to find beauty in yourself. You have to go on that journey, if you're not there yet, to find beauty in yourself without relying on other people.
Agreed. Agreed.
Agree? Anything else y'all want to add to that?
I would definitely say there's beauty in everyone. Maybe not to what you believe is beauty, but there is beauty that can be found in every single person. I don't think anybody in any shape, way, or form is ugly. Everyone has their beauty and value.
I agree.
I agree. And my comment is probably more for the haters of the group. Drink
You
water
two's gonna
and
go
mind
there.
cotton picking business. You don't like it, you don't have to. You don't have to look at it. You don't think it's attractive? Ignore it. Walk past. Somebody else might. Every pot has its cover. Hush your mouth, drink water, and mind your business. That's all.
And what that means in translation, for those who didn't get all those firing darts, keep scrolling is what she said. Keep scrolling.
In social media terms,
Yeah,
craziness.
and you brought up so many things in that one sentence. I was like,
I
darts
know.
fired, darts fired. So if they wanted to find out more about what you think about beauty, Dr. Trissa, where can they find you?
Trissa Job at DPT. TrissaJob.dpt. Lord have his mercy on Instagram. Yeah.
She said, Lord have his mercy. And
Oh,
Amanda, if they wanted to find out more about beauty in the Asian community, and where can they find you?
They can find me on Instagram. It's at Amanda Aayumn.
All right. See, Trista, she remember her handle. And I am the other Dr. C on the couch. I am the hand behind the handle of Healthy Bump. Club. And we appreciate you for hanging out with us here on YouTube, where we are known simply as Healthy Bump Club. If you like this particular talk and you have some comments, let us know, what is your standard of beauty? What have you been taught? What have you grown up with? We want to know. Comment, like, share. That is your hint. Thank you for supporting us. Thank you for supporting us through our Apple link, because I'm just assuming y'all gonna buy some music, as we are partners with Apple Music, and also for supporting us with our gear. Making sure you get a hat, a tote, a sweater. Come on, show some shoulders. Get your bucket hat on. All right. Spring is coming. We believe it's coming. I feel it in the air because my sinuses tell me so. Okay. And we thank y'all for watching us once again. And we will see y'all when next episode.